Well, hey everybody, welcome to Midweek Live. This is our second time doing this. I'm really excited about today because we're going to be hearing from Mike, our Celebrate Recovery pastor. But right before we get started, I just want to encourage you guys, Midweek Live is really meant to be this interactive engagement with you. We just believe the power of a life lived honoring the Lord is not just Sunday for an hour.
Right.
It's not just the time that you're watching the online service. It is in your everyday. So hopefully you are having lunch, maybe at your break room, maybe at home, maybe in front of a computer. I don't know where you're at, but we're hoping that if you have questions as we talk through recovery, as we talk about just all different kinds of things today, if you have questions, comments, gosh, if you have a testimony that you would like to share, I think testimony nights are probably my favorite nights at Celebrate Recovery because truthfully, we relate with each other. And even if your entire story, not everybody relates every step of the way, there are these snippets and these moments where people go, I felt that way before, and somebody else felt that way before, and it brings hope and it brings encouragement. And so if you even want to share your testimony, we would love to hear those. If you want to share your prayer requests, we would love to hear those. So as we're getting into it today, would love to hear from you, whether you're watching that live or whether you're watching that after the fact. Mike and I are going to be tagged in this post, so we are going to answer that whenever those questions come. So yeah, Mike Navarro, who's been our Celebrate Recovery pastor for how many years now?
14 going on 15 years
Wow,
now.
I cannot
It's been a while.
How long has Celebrate Recovery been going then?
We are in our 15th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you guys celebrate that in January or?
We do. We celebrate our anniversary in mid to late January.
Okay.
And actually, this may be our 16th year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This may be the 16th year.
That's fantastic.
So we had our 15-year anniversary already, I think.
Yeah. So you might hear, I'm going to tell you right now, you might hear me say CR. That's it. We call it kind of insider because we're shortening the name of the actual ministry, which is Celebrate Recovery. But you might hear me say CR. Celebrate Recovery is the thing we're talking about. And I think maybe a lot of people, number one, maybe have never heard that term before. I imagine they've heard AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or even NA. There's Narcotics Anonymous. There's there's different groups like that. But what really is the difference between Celebrate Recovery and AA or NA or any of those other recovery programs people have heard about before?
Sure. Well, the key difference is Jesus Christ. That's the primary difference in the programs. They're all good. They're all worthy. Where AA, we would say, has a singleness of purpose, which is to help people stop drinking, which is a fantastic purpose, which saves lives.
Yes, absolutely.
Love AA.
Yeah.
Where Narcotics Anonymous, or NA, has a singleness of purpose, meaning that nobody ever need to die active in their addiction. So they exist to help people stop using narcotics.
Say that one more time, that nobody need die
active in their addiction. Yeah, because as an addict, we have an addiction problem that sticks with us, but we're not active in our addiction once we have stopped using. So were those traditional programs, and I like to use the word traditional rather than secular, because secular implies that there's no God in those programs, and God is definitely in those programs. But where the difference lies is where they have a singleness of purpose, Celebrate Recovery has a singleness of higher power, meaning we believe that Jesus Christ has the answer to anything that a person could be struggling with. Any hurt, any habit, any hang-up is our catchphrase. And so the basic principles of the programs are the same. The steps are essentially the same. There's some slight variations to a couple of them depending on what people are trying to recover from. A lot of it is similar. People that come from traditional recovery programs will recognize a lot of their program in the Celebrate Recovery program. But the main factor is Jesus Christ as higher power.
Yeah, because if you have ever been involved in AA, you know that they say higher power, right? So it's never like identified as God, right?
Right. Well, it is.
You think it is?
They
Okay.
use a phrase that says God as we understand him.
God as we, okay.
And they do that purposely
Okay.
To keep the door open as wide as possible. Again, remembering that their primary purpose is to help people stop drinking.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's really, really helpful. So somebody that maybe has gone through AA or NA or maybe just a recovery in general and is actually a believer, this is the perfect place for them to step into, right?
It really is. It really is. And we found that over the years, especially the early years of Celebrate Recovery. There were so many of us who thought we were the only ones at church that had substance abuse problems in our background. And when Celebrate Recovery came along, we started to discover, hey, we're not the only ones at church that are struggling with this. And we also began to realize that the tools that we were using in recovery were helpful in all different phases of life, because they're all about getting to know who God is, taking personal responsibility for your own life, cleaning up your own side of the street, and then maintaining that relationship with God as we grow in relationship with others and with Him along the way.
Yeah.
So it really, when Celebrate Recovery came along, it really hit a hot button.
Well,
for
did it
people.
feel? It probably felt a little like you guys all kind of starting on the room. Wait a second, I
Well, yeah, we
recognize
used to do this across the room at church. We're like, you know.
So you had experienced recovery before joining Celebrate Recovery when it kicked off here.
I personally had become drug-free, had just a bare minimum knowledge of the recovery processes. Most of my recovery knowledge has come through the Celebrate Recovery program. The ministry here at Northpointe was started by a group of people that did have that traditional
the background of recovery
experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to unpack a little bit more of this at the very end as well. But how often does Celebrate Recovery happen? Like, what's the expectation if you were joining it or any of those things?
Yeah. So at Northpointe, we meet every Wednesday.
Okay.
And around town, there's a Celebrate Recovery meeting almost every night of the week. The COVID situation has kind of put a little bit of a dent in that. But the overall...
But you're saying the churches, the local churches?
Yes, local churches here in the Fresno Clovis area. Yeah.
Okay.
And so here in our area, we've got meetings on Monday night for sure, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Friday night, I don't think we have a meeting right now. But at Northpointe, we're every Wednesday.
Well, when I love, I was actually looking at your, so Celebrate Recovery, Northpointe has an actual Facebook.
Yes.
And you guys actually post things that people can watch to just bring encouragement. I was thinking, gosh, even as you were talking right now, those are things that you can engage in, even if there's not a recovery group to go to just get some hope, get some encouragement.
Right. Connect with others. People that are part of the Celebrate Recovery family. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And you're on you're live. You were saying some churches were not able to maybe get to that place of being, because that's a new thing. Celebrate Recovery, anonymity and confidentiality are big things. So how did this whole COVID thing change? It
changed it some. Confidentiality and anonymity are, they're very important. We call them basic requirements for Celebrate Recovery. At the same time, each person is free to blow their own anonymity, so to speak, and jump on Facebook Live, which I do regular, with tidbits of information or maybe some advice, things like that. While other people are allowed to keep their anonymity. And so we do broadcast on Wednesdays on Facebook Live, but we only broadcast people who have made the decision to essentially tell the world, hey, I'm a part of the Celebrate Recovery program.
They've personally said, I'm okay with people knowing that I'm recovering from whatever it is.
Right. Anybody that wants to come and remain anonymous, they're going to get to remain anonymous.
Right. So it's still it's still at your own pacing.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a peer-driven, self-help type environment.
Yeah.
And you set your own pace.
Yeah. So So it's Wednesday night. I mean, it's Wednesday.
It's
so
Wednesday,
tonight will be, I believe tonight is live. It's even Chip Night, if I understand that correct.
Right.
And I just want to kind of unpack Chip Night a little. People may have seen that. They see it posted. They probably heard it before.
Yeah.
What's Chip Night?
Okay. All right. So Chip Night, it's not like Tostitos.
We're not handing out chips.
I mean, I like Tostitos. But it's about sobriety chips. It's about markers of continuous recovery, sobriety, regardless of what area of life a person is working on. And so when you've had a particular struggle in your life and you decide to surrender that struggle, that's a big moment.
It's huge.
And so we like to celebrate that moment. And when you've decided to work on a particular bad habit or a particular hang-up that you might have, when you reach the 30-day mark of having actively worked on that part of your recovery, well, that's a big moment. We want to celebrate with each other. And so we have those landmarks of sobriety. We call them 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
Wow.
And so once a month, we get together as a big Celebrate Recovery family. We have a big fellowship event, and we do that. And people come up and get their sobriety chip, and we all clap for them.
There's a lot of celebrating.
There's a lot of celebrating. There's a lot of hooting and hollering. You know.
So if you were ever looking for a time to come and not maybe stand out in any way, because there's just a lot of great vibes that night, right? People are excited to be grabbing maybe that 30-day chip or 60, or maybe it's years. We know we have Celebrate Recovery people that have been recovering for years. What's the highest year you've ever heard?
Gosh, somewhere in the 40s.
Wow.
We had somebody, I think, maybe picked up a 42-year
wow.
chip one night. Now, obviously, Celebrate Recovery hasn't been around for 42 years.
Right.
But that person had been working in a recovery program for 42 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a big
That
deal.
is worth celebrating.
It is worth celebrating.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And another thing that the chip night does is when you're struggling in the early days of recovery and you see somebody pick up like a 1 year or 2 year chip, it helps you know, gosh, if they did it, like maybe I can
it's
too.
Possible.
It's possible. It does. It does happen. So your original question was, if you're coming for the first time, this is a great night to come because we're going to be out there having fun, and you're going to get to see the celebration part of Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah. Is it a pretty good turnout when you guys do these?
It's a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
We'll have families out there tonight, so we'll probably have 100, 120 people
That's
or so.
great.
Our band will be out there. We have a great barbecue vendor coming out.
Oh,
cool. Where we can get some food from him, and so people are going to bring their lawn chairs. Bring your lawn chair.
And mask.
Yeah,
right?
bring your mask and stay safe. And just know that even if you're watching the recorded version of this, Chip Night happens once a month into the future as well. So it's the same vibe, it's the same feeling, it's the same reason to celebrate.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the most obvious thing. My husband and I experienced Celebrate Recovery years ago. I don't remember how long. It was shortly after we had kicked it off as a church that we were coming here. And so I'm speaking to the person that maybe is sitting out there and going like, I've been thinking about going to Celebrate Recovery, and I've been trying to get my loved one or whoever to go with me. And I did that. I played that game for a couple months of just like, man, I really want to do this. I really feel like we should be going to this. And every time I brought it up, my husband was like, yeah, not this week. I don't feel good today. I have a headache today. Yeah. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Excuse after excuse. And I just remember after a few months, I just remember driving home and there was just this heaviness on my heart. I just went, you know what? I don't really care if he goes with me. I just know I need to go. And I came home and all I said this time was just, I'm going tonight. I'm just going to go tonight. And he ended up coming with me, and we were in Celebrate Recovery for several years here. And so my encouragement to you is, if that's been what you've been experiencing, this like idea that, man, I just feel this tug that I'm supposed to be going, especially if it's not on the addiction side, because I feel like that's a little bit different, right? So I'm talking about a little bit more of like codependency would be the terminology that we would use oftentimes in Celebrate Recovery. That's what you would hear, or enabling. And so I'm, as a codependent, would look for, approval to do that thing, right?
Right.
And finally just saying, no, I know what I need, and the support that I got. Oh my gosh. The great meetings of just getting encouragement and hearing encouragement from each other, and knowing that other people have thought the same things I've thought, have felt the same things that I felt. I could come and just cry, not share at all. And just as people were sharing, just cry. And it wasn't embarrassing. I wasn't, didn't get a ton of people going like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Can I, because with Celebrate Recovery, they want to allow you to kind of feel that a little bit. And it's just a really inviting and comfortable place to start unpacking kind of all this stuff. Right.
Well, one thing that we understand completely is that nobody walks through the door wanting to be fixed.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody walks through the door hurting in some capacity, but they don't want a quick fix.
Right.
They want to be able to come in, take a breath, settle down, and just take a look around. And probably the most important thing that I could say to you guys that are watching that may have never been is that whenever you walk into a Celebrate Recovery meeting, everybody in that room knows what it's like to walk in there for the very first time. And everybody in that room is sensitive to that. And that's why we don't mob people, hey, why are you here? What's your issue?
Yes.
We don't do that to people because first off, nobody likes it.
Right.
Second off, it's not effective.
Right.
And if it is going to be a program of personal responsibility, we want people to be able to come in and just be who they are and begin to settle in and kind of let that first night roll to them a little bit.
I love that he had that perspective of everybody was that new person.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
Everybody walked up that very first time. Yep. Everybody did that, that drive, and the whole time you're driving.
The long walk from the parking lot into the room. Everybody that's in there has done that.
Yeah, you're in good company.
Yes.
You're in good company.
Yes, for sure.
That's great. So not just for addicts. I'm naming off codependency. What do groups look like right now? How many groups do you guys have right now?
So right now, in person, we have the basic 4.
Okay.
And we call them the basic 4 because there's substance abuse groups, one for men, one for women. And then we have codependency groups, one for men, one for women. And so essentially, they all operate the same. They use the same format. They use the same focus question. The leader reads through the same script. The principles are all the same across the board. It's just there's some commonality with a substance abuse group. And there's commonality in the codependent group because that includes so many emotions and frustrations and that type of thing. And then right now with COVID, aside from that, we're doing Zoom groups. And those are still gender specific when it comes to the sharing part of it. But obviously they're mixed issue groups. And so it's men with men, women with women.
And how are they able to get the Zoom information? What do they have to do?
So the best thing to do is go to the Northpointe website, northpointe.org, find the Celebrate Recovery page, and there's a really simple process. There's 2 buttons. I've never been to CR. You click that button. That'll get you started on the Zoom process. Or I've completed the quick orientation, and now I'm going to click the second button and get on the mailing list for the Zoom link.
Well, I'll put a direct link in this once this is actually done, so that people can go ahead and do that. And then my understanding is first time around, you go to a specific kind of group. You don't get kind of logged into one of the ones that you're talking about right now.
Right. So first time in person, we do a one-time orientation. Your first night there, we're just going to go over the basics with you, let you know how the groups work. Again, give you a chance to catch your breath. We know how difficult that is just to get there. Give you a chance to ask questions. And give you a chance to meet a couple people. Because that's a big deal to us, is to be able to start building relationships right away. And then with the Zooms, the orientation is done online. So you're gonna click the button. You're gonna watch a quick video. And that'll kind of explain things to you. And then you can go back to the website, click in, get the email with link. The Zoom link on it.
Great, great.
Right.
So codependency, we talked a little bit, just really quick, for those that, I know the first time I heard things like codependency or enabling, growing up Christian, I always felt like, well, isn't it that just being a really good Christian, like, supporting somebody and loving them through, their difficulty, and what would you say, quickly, what would you say to the person that's kind of feeling that struggle? Yeah, so this is what I would say. God created us to be interdependent. That's the way he made us. And that's a great gift that he gave us, the gift of human relationship. But like every other good thing God gave us, we have taken it at times and turned it into something not so good. So interdependency becomes codependency. And we become fixated on somebody else and the way that they're behaving rather than taking a look inside at ourselves and how we're behaving and how honestly we may have a part to play. Right. Not the whole part, but a part to play in the dynamic of that relationship. The definition for codependency is loosely translated excessive reliance on another person or partner and their behavior for us to feel like we're emotionally well. And so it starts with what's excessive. Well, obviously I rely on my wife for certain things. I rely on her for support, and she's a great caretaker for me, and so on and so forth. You rely on your husband to a certain degree. So which of the two of us decides what's excessive reliance? And that's why the strong emphasis on personal accountability is such a big deal when it comes to codependency. But there are clues for people to know. And I really enjoy doing this, if you can't tell, because so first I'm going to say this to every guy that's watching. Codependency is not a female issue. It's a human being issue. And I know this because, most men would never think that they're codependent. They would think they have an anger problem. Oh. But the reason that they're angry is because everybody around them isn't behaving the way that they want them to behave, and that's codependency. So it's like when we begin to identify these things in ourselves, then we have handles. And that's what the recovery process does, is give us handles to begin tackling them. So let's talk, if you're okay for a minute, about what people typically think of when they think of codependency. Yeah. I'm a doormat. I'm an enabler. My husband walks all over me and I just let him. I can't say no to people. I'm a people pleaser. I'm all of these things. And that is a big component of the codependency issue. There are some boundary issues. The flip side to that, though, is control. I try to control my environment. In other words, like if I do everything just right, then everybody around me will behave and do exactly what they are supposed to do, so I can feel okay, right? Yeah. And so that's what I mean by that excessive reliance. And what we want to do is we want to get to a place where we're able to look inside and figure out, okay, where do they stop and I begin? Or where does my responsibility to them end and then their responsibility begins? This is as individual. I was going to say, it's going to look different for each person,
it's right? It's as individualized as the people that come in with that type of struggle in their lives. And what the recovery process does is help you to focus inward to figure out, okay, what are the patterns in my life? What is it that I can actually do? Yeah. What do I actually have some sense of control over? And what do I not? What am I kidding myself about, Wow. My first sponsor used to tell me, Mike, when you're disturbed, there's something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with everybody around you. They may have problems too, but you have to acknowledge the fact that you're disturbed. And so if somebody in your life is driving you crazy, You know, you want to look inside first and see, okay, like, how do I approach that from there?
And you're just naming off, I mean, gosh, what you're naming off just makes it feel like basically anybody can come to celebrate recovery. Because who hasn't, I mean, at one point or another, and clearly when we're talking about codependency, this is probably an ongoing, like this has been an ongoing pattern in your life, maybe with some specific ongoing people even in your life. And there is where I think that's just a key thing for many that are giving the excuse of like, I don't need recovery because I'm not addicted to anything. I'm not addicted to, you know, drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff. But here is where you actually could find a place here, because identifying your own, maybe even identifying your own needs, learning how to say no, finding out what your boundaries are, especially because you're saying that's different for each person. They've got to come to a place through prayer, through study, right?
Right.
And there are even things called step studies. I'm assuming we're not doing those right now, but
we're actually going to start taking sign-ups tonight for
That's
new
fantastic.
step studies at Northpointe, and the step study, just quickly, is an intensive walk through the 12 steps in a closed group. Step study will change your life if you give yourself over to that process and participate in it fully.
Yeah,
But
it's a good commitment. It's a commitment.
It's a commitment.
But it's a pretty strong trust. I mean, you grow a lot of trust and communication and connection with the people that you're doing that with. Right?
Absolutely, yeah, because it's a closed group.
Right.
So you
it's not a
start off
revolving door of people.
off with certain people, and then at some point early in the process, the group closes, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Before we get down to the nitty-gritty, we got a room full of people that trust each other and can share with each other.
That's awesome. You know, one of the main reasons why I wanted to sit and talk with you is I had this thought during COVID, these last months, of how I imagine many that are struggling with addictions, and especially things like drinking, something very harmless for you know, people will use that term a lot, right? It's something you go to, we go to dinner and there's alcohol as
it's
options.
Socially acceptable.
Yes. So during COVID, it just came to mind this thought of like, man, people, I wonder if they're just kind of drinking all throughout their day. There's nobody really watching them. They don't have to drive anywhere, have to go anywhere. They have readily available, right? You know, one of the thoughts came because we would go shopping, and some certain things were gone all the time. Ice cream was gone a lot.
Yeah.
Because my boys wanted ice cream one time, and at least 3 different visits, there was no ice cream. And alcohol. Yeah. Like empty shelves. Yeah. And you're going, wow. So I think really, what has that looked like during COVID?
So with alcohol, you know, if you're home all day, 5 o'clock easily becomes 3:30, then 2:15, then maybe right after my sandwich at lunch. And, you know, 2 can easily become 3, and 3 can easily become 4.
Or even stop losing count because you're really not paying attention.
Yeah, and you can stop losing count. And this goes for all types of human behavior as well. You know, anxiety is off the charts. Loneliness is off the charts. Depression, domestic violence is another one that increased. And, you know, if a person has a hidden habit, maybe they don't even know they're hiding it. You know, this season has definitely challenged that. And if it is alcohol, and you know, if people are saying things to you like, have you been drinking already? Yeah. Or, you know,
how many of you had?
Yeah.
You know, or
well, what happened to that case of beer
buying
that was
that
in
again?
here yesterday? You need to give that some thought, because it's like our minds play tricks on us because we want what we want. We want the things that are going to comfort us. And so we will, that's what denial is all about. We will lie to ourselves in order to partake in what it is that we want to partake in.
Right. And give yourself any excuse to continue to do that.
Right.
For as long
as it takes. And you know, the addiction, it wants what it wants, and it cares nothing for you. It cares nothing for your family. It doesn't discriminate. And it will pick on one brother and not the other brother.
Right.
Two sisters and not, and not the other sister, whatever the case may be. It hits where it hits.
Yeah. Wow. Relapse, another probably pretty high problem right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it has happened. Unfortunately, again, it's been a challenging time. And here's the thing about relapse, though. If you've relapsed, everything that you've learned up to that point of relapse, you still have that.
Right.
You just need to start over.
Right.
It
hasn't been erased.
It hasn't been erased. It's like, are we going to make you pick up a new chip? No, we're not going to make you, but should you? Yes. And why wouldn't you want to?
Right.
Why wouldn't you want to do that, to start over? And so relapse has been a real thing.
Yeah.
During COVID, and we have, like you've said, we've cried with people. We have invited them back in to the fold, and we've done what we needed to do to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's like just to make sure that people understand that we still love you, still care about you, still want the best for you. We still want you to be with us. We want what's best for you.
I imagine that what happens is you start to tell yourself a lot of lies. Satan starts to tell you a lot of lies about relapse.
Yeah.
You failed, you're a failure.
Yeah.
No one's going to look at you the same.
Right.
No one's going to forgive you for that.
Right. Right. See, you can't do it.
So you can't
That's
do
the
it.
big one right there. See, you'll never be able to do it. You can't do it. You might as well just give in.
And let's be clear, none of those things are true.
Right.
None of those statements are true statements.
Right.
So number one, stop thinking that.
Right.
And then number two,
just come back. Just come back, or come for the first time. When I was in my 20s, I tried mightily to stop doing what I was doing. And I relapsed time and time and time again. But I kept trying. I kept trying, and eventually was able to get it done. And some of us, we don't even know we're relapsing when we're doing it. We really at that moment don't understand what's got a hold of us, but we do know that we're losing the battle.
You're aware of that.
And so those are like some of the first things,
first signs
to watch for. It's like thoughts start to become actions.
Okay.
And you're standing a little too close to things. You're hanging out with people you shouldn't hang out with, and you're
doing old habits.
Yeah, it's like I can go over there and not do that, or I can hang out with those guys and not do that.
Yeah.
I can go to that website and not see that.
Right.
Those type of things.
Right.
And that's
dancing near the edge.
That's how we get there. Yeah.
Dancing near the edge. You held up a chip a moment ago.
I did. My blue chip.
What? So tell me a little bit more about that chip. That's yours, yeah.
This is mine, yeah. I picked this up at the last chip night. And so I got this to begin a journey of working my recovery program when it comes to food. And Kim knows this about me. Some others know this about me too. But when I quit doing drugs, I ate everything in sight for like 2 years. And I got really big. I used to tell people I'd rather be fat than wired, and that was true. And but during COVID, during this time of anxiety and relapse and all those things, I just came to realize that food was probably my first addiction, the first substance that I used to comfort myself when I was stressed.
Yeah. At what age? You said an age before.
Probably 5 or 6 years old is the youngest I can remember doing that. And I just came to the realization over this time of COVID that I didn't want that to be my story, that I want to be able to eat and enjoy food like a normal, healthy person, and not just go to the pantry and grab whatever is crunchy and close and salty. That's
it. Only requires
and just open it up, and it's like, but I didn't want to do that, and so again, it's an individualized thing, you know. So for me, you know, the definition of food sobriety is that I would eat planned meals.
Yeah.
And eat them in a normal fashion, not
mindlessly, not quickly. Okay.
Because I'm stressed out in the moment.
Right.
But to literally, you know, value the nutrition in my food and that type of thing. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I should be getting a 30-day chip tonight, but I got to be honest. I caught myself slipping up a couple weekends ago out of stress, out of anxiety. And so, but that's what it's all about. You know, is giving myself a focal point. To go towards, you know, you know, recovery all starts with knowing why you're here. You know, like what got you here? Because what got you here is what got you here, and that's where we want to get started.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I mean, it's great to just know, and you know, the way you hold it is so interesting. It's you've held it in ways that have just been like, it's giving me just like, you know, I have to remember what it's for. And why I have it. You know, and so I keep it with me. I'll have it with me tonight. I'll enjoy a barbecue sandwich, you know, because that's what a normal person would do, is enjoy one sandwich. I was going to say one, not extremely quickly, not, you know, not mindlessly. Oh, wow, that's great. That's great. Well, last month was Recovery Month, and we actually, you and another staff member, Will Russell. Gave a great message. We talked a lot about hope. Am I right? You guys kind of covered the first couple, maybe steps or so of recovery.
We kind of did. We kind of like paraphrased our way through the first 3 steps, which basically are, you know, my life is unmanageable, and I think God can help me manage my life, and then I'm going to let him help me manage my life. That's kind of what it was about, and that's where the hope comes from. This is why people that come to Celebrate Recovery and they stick around for a little while, they get some joy back in their life, because they're beginning to realize that God's helping them do something that they weren't able to do. And they're experiencing freedom, sometimes for the first time in years. Decades even sometimes.
And that's really freeing feeling.
It is very freeing.
You know, you're around human beings who are feeling that free, and it's the joy of the Lord, really, just really exuding out of them.
It really is.
Well, tonight, we just want to invite you again tonight, live, right here, this grassy area here, or is this
on the main grass area at the church?
Pretty easy to find.
Find the big cross.
Great.
We'll be close by.
Just come. Don't overthink it.
Just come. Don't overthink it. Just show
up. Don't find the excuse, because I'm sure you can find one. But just come.
Just come exactly like you are.
We're going to barbecue it up. We're going to celebrate some chips. We're going to drop, I'm going to drop a link into that message, that Recovery Sunday message that you and Will did. We'll drop that in the comments too if you want to watch that. And then again, if you're watching this live right now, or if you're watching this later on, drop your comments in, drop your questions in. We'd love to hear your testimonies. We'd love to hear life change. And we'd also love to know if we can be praying for you, if there's ways that we can equip you. This has been a difficult time for so many people, whether you're struggling with something like an addiction, or it's sadness, it's depression, it's loneliness. Maybe even just not even able to identify how you feel, because there's so much change and so much uncertainty. About jobs and about health, right? We've had fires. There's racial injustice. This has been everything.
Parenting. That's been a big one. The one thing that Celebrate Recovery does better than anything else is provide a support system for people, regardless of what they're going through. You're going to be accepted at Celebrate Recovery just exactly the way you are. Just be yourself. Just come as you are. Bring your kids tonight. Bring your friends. Bring your neighbors. Bring your husband, whatever that looks like for you. Just come. Well, we just want to pray for you before we send it off. Would you mind praying for everybody? That'd be great.
Awesome.
That'd be great. So, Father, thanks for this time that we've had, and Thank you for each person that has joined us live. And thank you for each person that will be watching a recorded version of this. God, we are all your children, and we know that you care about each of us, and we know that you care deeply for each of us. And we just want to pray that people would come to know that you want more for them than from them, and that you're merciful and gracious, that you're caring and loving, and that when folks turn to you, you can certainly help them get started with some life change. And so we pray for courage for folks if they're trying to figure out whether or not to come out to a meeting. But most of all, we pray that they would just come to know you, and that you would be Lord of their life. And so just be with folks as they listen. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We want to thank you again so much for joining us. Hopefully we see some new faces tonight at Celebrate Recovery, or really any Wednesday night for that matter. We'll drop links inside the comments about ways that you can connect with Celebrate Recovery, and really just anything else we've talked about while we're here. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope to see you next week for Midweek Live.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Thanks for being here.